Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the President of the Air Force Association, General Larry Spencer.
Hail to the Redskins, hail victory. Praise on the warpath, fight for all we see.
Okay, now you know what I'm going to do when I leave AFA. Thank you all for coming back, and we're really excited for this event this afternoon. Those of you that were with us last year will know it was a highlight of the conference, and we really, really enjoyed it, and it was really beneficial. So thank you all for being here this afternoon, and we're really excited. This will be the second annual Spark Tank competition. Spark Tank calls for airmen to pitch their innovative ideas to this panel of judges for funding and senior level support. I'm pleased to introduce our hosts for today's competition, Spark Tank Director Lauren Kenausenberger, Lauren, and AFWorks Chief Architect Dave Harden. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done, General Spencer.
Hello, Orlando. How are we doing today? Woo! Wasn't supposed to be a joke right when we walked in the door, but it turned into a funny one anyhow.
It did.
Yeah.
We are so glad to be back here in Orlando. And you know, doing Spark Tank, it always feels a little bit like the Oscars, except everyone's wearing the same thing.
Hey, Lauren, camouflage is on fleek.
Well, and it definitely feels like the Oscars. We even have Alec Baldwin here in a jumpsuit, in a flight suit. He really does look like him. So today, once again, we celebrate our Air Force risk takers and idea makers, airmen CEOs and entrepreneurs who refuse to accept the status quo and have created innovative solutions that will help us bring our very best to the fight.
With only 2 months lead time, we had over 300 pitches from across the Air Force. Today, our 6 finalists will present their ideas to our celebrity Spark investors. And what are they hoping for? Money, support, and the hopes to take home the Spark Tank trophy. And now, it's time for our 2019 Spark Tank. Let's meet our celebrity investors. Dr. Heather Wilson is the 24th Secretary of the Air Force, a billionaire investor with RDT&E budget exceeding Amazon and Alphabet. From a young age, she could often be found helping her grandfather fix airplanes and flying as often as possible. She now has over 5,000 airplanes.
Mark Cuban is a serial entrepreneur, self-made billionaire, Shark Tank investor, and owner of the Dallas Mavericks. But he only has 1 airplane. His favorite job ever was in college when he was a disco dance instructor. And he remains a lifelong learner who has taught himself how to write AI algorithms and still keeps up with those latest dance moves.
There we go. General David L. Goldfein is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. He kiddingly says that he is in the more takeoffs than landings club, as his aircraft was intercepted with a missile. If you caught him early in his career, you might have tipped him at the Ramstein commissary as he was bagging, or you might have seen him playing his guitar as he toured the country.
Legend has it that Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Kaleth Wright, literally walks on water for the enlisted force of over 250,000 airmen. He also reads at least 2 books a week, maintains a golf handicap of 6, and has more Twitter followers than Beyonce.
George Steinbrenner IV is the youngest IndyCar racing team owner ever. You may recognize the family name for owning the New York Yankees.
Welcome.
George is still a regular Joe at heart. As a 2016 intern, he filled coolers for the drivers, answered phones, and yes, even mopped floors.
And you, the airmen, are our final vote, with live votes coming in on our Facebook poll.
Wow, Lauren, I just realized that George is only 2 years older than my daughter. So I'm glad that the younger generation is kind of taking the lead, but man, I feel old.
Like a fine wine, Dave, like a fine wine.
Well, it's important to remember that while this is a competition and hopefully entertaining, the main goal is to help these airmen today. We want to see their ideas come to life.
Last year, Bartek Bakleda captured us all with his redesign of the KC-135 boom instructor platform, an ergonomic design which helps the necks and backs of our boom operators and starts to chip away at $100 million in back and neck injuries annually.
Let's take a look at where the project is now.
My name is Bartek Bakleda. I'm the 2018 Spark Tech winner. I'm asking you for $1.5 million investment that will instantly improve quality of life for our career field.
Figure out his SPO and get this to the airmen.
This is awesome. If you have a great idea, because everybody does, like literally the ideas and solutions to Air Force problems are walking around, but when they see this, they're like, hey, by the way, we had a staff sergeant to a colonel up here doing the same thing, pushing their idea to try to save Air Force money. I'm gonna put my idea in because this is real and I can do it. I can actually come up here on stage and do it, just talk directly to Air Force senior leadership and like, sir, this is a great idea. Approved. Thank you. Have a nice day. Given the opportunity to go to efforts, which was extremely important because that's when the actual project went into, I would say, extreme overdrive. It's approved by AMC, it's approved by ATC, approved by headquarters. It's got the funding, it's got the blueprints, flight testing is done. It's just standing by for the cushions to be able to put on all the aircraft. That's it. It's done. Not only are we going to save money, which is key, but we're going to essentially better the quality of life of one career field, the entire career field, all the KC-135 boom operator. For those of you that are here for the 2019 Spark Tank, congratulations, you've already won. By being on stage and briefing your projects, your ideas, your innovation to the Air Force leadership, it's going to move your project along in the right direction.
Now that was super inspiring. Thank you, Bach, for taking an idea, forging forward, and making it happen. We deeply appreciate it. Your nation deeply appreciates it. Today, each team will have 3 minutes to present their pitch, followed by 4 minutes of discussion with each of the judges, culminating in a final decision round where the judges say whether they're in or whether they're out.
And remember that you get a say via the live Facebook poll, but it will close very soon after the final pitch, so be ready with the trigger.
Let's meet the teams. Good luck, everyone. First, into the Spark Tank is the M1 Cargo Parachute Failsafe Team. This simple device can be used on a cargo parachute to preserve the payload in the event of a timer malfunction, and nobody likes a malfunction.
I'm I'm Staff Sergeant Alton from Little Rock Air Force Base, representing the 19th Air Wing. Also representing Air Force and Army riggers from around the world. The piece of plastic you hold in your hand that I built, or that I 3D printed from my basement, for less than $1, could cut $1.6 million annually in destroyed assets. Turn a 2% fail rate into a 0% fail rate, finally solve a 20-year problem, increase the reliability of all heavy equipment airdrops, and take the first step to saving $34 million over the next 10 years. My ask from the panel is not a monetary value, but rather a sponsorship and the push to approve testing and development of this part at Little Rock Air Force Base. This way, we can piggyback off the existing unilateral training loads that we drop every day at Little Rock. Little Rock drops more heavy equipment loads than any other base in the DoD. However, we do expect pushback on this idea, which is why your sponsorship is so vital. The problem we face is the mid-air release of the cargo parachutes from their accompanying loads once they've exited the aircraft. This release results in a total loss of the cargo being dropped, whether it be a training load or a multi-million-dollar weapon system in the AOR. The fix to this problem might simply be a simple piece of plastic. The Alton block snaps together under the faulty timing mechanism, physically limiting the release until the load has stabilized. At that point, the Alton block will break away, allowing the load to release, or the parachutes to release once the load has safely hit the ground. We are literally saving millions for cents on the dollar. Let's talk about the release system the Alton block is added to. The M1 and M2 are the most cost-effective and robust release systems used by the DoD. They're rated at 42,000 pounds, mechanically controlled, waterproof, shockproof, can be left to sit, but still be ready at a second's notice. Do not rely on proprietary batteries costing thousands, and are much easier to manufacture, meaning less back order, more available drops. By implementing the Alton block, we increase the cost by $5 to $10 per drop. This is minuscule compared to the new system, which will increase the cost by 830% over the current M1 system. By deferring,
And that concludes our 3-minute pitch.
So let's give him a big hand. We now have 4 minutes of discussion. Judges?
So tell me how this works.
so as you can see right here, as the load exits the aircraft, we have a faulty timing block. Well, it is faulty, it has a 2% chance of failing, actually. In the case that it does fail, this piece will fit basically in the place, breaking away after the load has stabilized, not allowing the block to drop and not allowing the parachutes to release in turn.
You said you would get pushback from whom?
We'll just say Army engineering. We'll say an Army engineering NATIC from, they write the POs on airdrops, and they're not too particular about this idea.
So one of the points that was up there on your slide is that to defer an overly expensive electronic system.
So that is the competitor. We have, so the problem.
So wait, 2 things first. One, when you say in a presentation to defer an overly expensive, right, you're kind of playing your hand ahead of your hand, right? And so why would someone develop an overly expensive system, and what's going to be their perspective of what you're doing?
welcome to the military. Sir, with all due respect. So this is the culture that we're trying to break.
I get that,
sir.
right? But you got 4 minutes, 2 minutes now, right? And so I already know the bullshit you deal with because they've reminded me. You're selling us now, though.
Sir.
You got to deal with the problem at hand.
So I'm sorry, the question is?
So why? Why did they develop this system? Obviously, there's bureaucratic issues, right? But they developed it for a reason, right? And you subjectively said an overly expensive da-da-da-da-da, right? Why? Why would they implement this instead of the system they already have in place?
My best guess is because they didn't come up with this.
No,
I came up with this.
But you're selling us now, right? Why should we think this is a great idea to implement? Because she and others are going to have to say, you know what? We wasted a whole lot of money on this. Why? You got to sell us.
Because it's cheaper, more reliable, it cuts $34 million over the next 10 years. You can cut an $18 million contract right off the bat. It's what the airmen want. It's what the boots on the ground want. We want mechanical, we want reliability, and we want simplicity.
So, what do you need from the chief and I?
The sponsorship and the push, the weight of your sponsorship.
Where do you want me to push?
I'm sorry?
Where do you want me to push?
So the policy.
So, is it the Army?
No.
Mark Esper is a really good
So
friend
the
of mine.
bureaucracy the bureaucracy of testing and implementation. There's all the red tape. We need to cut the red tape.
Who's here
we need
from
to get
test?
there.
Is test and evaluation here?
But we need to bridge the gap between engineers and the subject matter experts and come up with a plan to implement this right away.
Air Guard Reserve Test Center. We'll test it down.
Copy that, sir.
We're over.
Judges, now's your chance to say, do we have a spark here with this project?
In a big way.
You know, as you were doing your presentation, I was thinking about a time back in 2014 on Sinjar Mountain. And, you know, we're the service that does precision delivery. And our teammates, soldiers, sailor, airmen, Marines, they expect us to deliver on time, on target. And there was this day in Iraq in 2014 where we had 2 precision deliveries at the exact same moment. There was a precision delivery of humanitarian relief and supplies that hit precisely on top of Sinjar Mountain with delivering food, supplies, water. At the same time, we delivered some precision-guided ordnance on the enemy at the base that had that force under siege. That's who we are. And that's what the nation expects of us. So you got a spark from me.
I love the innovation. I love your explanation to Mr. Cuban about why it works. It's simple and airmen need it. You got a spark from me.
I mean, I look at this thing and I'm thinking, and I look on that and you say it drops just 2% to 0. You think, how big can 2% be? But then you're talking in the tens and tens of millions of dollars over and so much lost equipment. And you hear the reaction from the crowd, from your contemporaries, and they love it, so it's a spark from me.
You don't have one for me, and I'll tell you why. No one's ever pitched me an idea and said, my idea sucks and the next guy's is amazing, right? Everybody always thinks their idea is the best, and I have no reason to doubt you here, but what I didn't hear and what I don't know, and I realize we're limited to 3 minutes, and why I asked about the other opportunity, it may be able to save $600 million, and I just don't know, right? And it may well be that the airmen think it's the best idea ever, but they don't know. And so anytime you pitch with so much at stake, and obviously there's a lot at stake. It's not just about what you think about yours, it's about what are the alternatives and how do I compare to the alternatives and why mine is better. Because if I put whoever designed the other thing up there, and obviously I'm not the expert in any of these, but they're probably going to have a completely different story, and you have to be able to convince us how to overcome that as well and which is better. Because that's where the Air Force wants to be, is where a marketplace ideas sends the best ideas that create the best results and serve the country the best to the top. So you have to be able to deal with both sides of the coin and answer all questions. So for that reason, even though I'm very supportive of what you're trying to do, you don't have a spark for me.
Fair enough.
4 out of 5, not bad.
Yep. Good job.
I hate being a dick, but sometimes, you know.
Next into the spark tank is the chemical agent detector team, a renewable energy power solution that runs chemical detectors without daily battery changes. It keeps going and going and going.
Good afternoon, Spark Tank. I'm excited to show you the solar power supply for the Joint Chemical Agent Detector, or JCAD. This device is going to change how we power our detectors and recover an airbase after an attack. I'm asking for $400,000 to complete an initial fielding of 300 units to bases throughout the Air Force and request that the leadership team sponsor this device into the CBRN Modernization Working Group led by HAF A4C for possible implementation into the joint program. The Air Force and its sister services use the JCAD to figure out where chemical warfare agents are at. But there's a problem. More often than not, these detectors are placed in remote areas of the base and they require the use of disposable AA batteries. Our teams spend hours swapping out these batteries to keep these detectors running. Back in March, Spangdahlem conducted its first readiness exercise in 7 years. During those 5 days, our teams had spent over 40 man-hours swapping out 1,600 AA batteries. So to put that into perspective, that's 2,900 man-hours and 116,800 AA batteries per installation for every year of operation. After seeing what our recon teams were going through, I came up with this idea. I built the first prototype with my own funds, and we tested it during our September exercise, where it successfully ran for 96 hours straight in the rain with no user maintenance. That allowed us to quickly recover the base and give countless hours back to every airman so that they could focus on their wartime mission. That was awesome, but we stepped it up a notch by bringing in a continuous process improvement team of engineers, electricians, and end users, and we made that prototype 82% more energy efficient, and we cut the weight in half. We added 4 layers of redundancy. So that way we ensure that these detectors are going to continue to operate when we need them the most. Additionally, with airman safety in mind, we added a Bluetooth capability. So now teams can check the power status of their detectors without ever leaving the protection of their vehicle. Spark Tank. With this device fielded throughout the Air Force, we could save millions of dollars in battery and manpower cost while reducing literally tons of hazardous waste. I hope that you'll approve my request so that together as a team, we can increase our readiness, give time back to the airmen, and cost-effectively modernize our existing joint capabilities today. Thank you.
Judges, 4 minutes of discussion.
Why 300 locations?
So, sir, after deliberating with our AF4 staff support, we believe that 300 units is enough to show the Air Force that, hey, this thing works. And really, that is the main point, is to be able to take that and push that to the joint program and tell them, DoD-wide, that this thing can work for everybody.
So this is a solar panel, so you're getting solar energy to...
Maybe not in here right now, but the good
that's
thing...
the way you get the power from it.
So we've added 4 layers in there, so airmen have options now. On the side, you can see that they can plug that in using commercial power. If they don't have commercial power available, the solar panel can keep that battery charged. If we lose solar power, just like we do in Germany in the wintertime, this battery pack inside the box gives them an additional 60 hours of runtime on their detectors. And if we lose that, they still have another 12 hours of internal battery pack. So that gives them 72 hours to be able to come up with an alternate solution to be able to keep these detectors running.
Yeah, I was surprised you found enough sunlight at Spangdahlem.
And that's the good thing, sir, because we actually designed this product around Germany in the wintertime. And we know that around 85% of our operating areas for the Air Force get the same amount or more solar energy that Germany does.
So you've obviously gone through a lot of iterations for this. What's your vision, your longer term vision? Is this the end all be all product, or is there some vision that you have that you'd like to get to?
This is not the end all be all. I would love to see us even shrink this down smaller so that we have that agile combat support that we're leaning towards. Make it agile so that our teams, 1-2-man teams, can go out and conduct CBRN operations.
What would you need to make it smaller to get it to where you want it to be?
I think if we work with some manufacturers, and really I would like to alter the container. I think that's the biggest piece.
So why didn't you ask for that as well?
I don't know.
Because if you're going to look, I'm trying to make a point here. If you're going to go for it and change the game, F it up, right? You know?
Yeah.
Really change the game and go for the solution rather than just what you think you can get.
And one thing that we really wanted to try to address is if this gets implemented into the joint program, joint dollars will fund R&D and prototyping, and then they also will sustain the first 2 years for the Air Force, and then we'll take over. So that's where we do expect that prototyping for this one will happen, is once we can get that into the joint program. But thank you.
What about the sensor itself? Because, we're all in the business of returning to our expeditionary roots, so this has got to be not only something you do at home station, it's also got to be deployable, right? The sensor itself that you're powering, anything that you looked at there that we need to be thinking about, or is this solely looking at the power generation for it?
I think it's an important question, General. Here we go. So the detector is going to have a long life ahead of it. There's constant S&T efforts through DITRA and other agencies to develop this. There's an ongoing effort right now to get it to some of our more lethal future generation agents. But the other important thing when you mentioned shipping this thing for travel that I think is a credit to Sergeant Moss is the battery inside there is a lithium battery, which is not very popular with airlines and shippers to transport. But Sergeant Moss did his homework. That's the same lithium battery that's in the F-35. So that stuff already exists in our logistics chain because our number one goal is to put this thing put this detector in an airman's hand anywhere around the world. And I think those 2 items are handled better than this by anything that exists right now. And I think.
Judges, do we have a spark?
I think we need to do this. I think we can do this. And I think you're not asking for, I take your point that there's developments that come after, but let's take this the first step and see whether we can get this, and then it doesn't stop there. This is just the next step. So let's see if we can do this.
What she said.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and to the points Mark made about the innovations you guys see moving forward, you seem like you have a plan for potential ways to innovate even past this point. So you got a spark from me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see where we can take this thing.
Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
Walking into the spark tank is the IRIS team, an idea for safely enhancing communications while working in confined spaces. And you wouldn't believe the spaces they crawl into.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panelists. My name is Master Sergeant William Bell.
And I'm Mia Tobit, and we're from the 100th Maintenance Squadron at RAF Mildenhall in England.
During fuel tank maintenance, our technicians are in a completely isolated, dark, and dangerous environment. We are asking for $500,000 to develop IRIS, a full-face respirator with integrated camera, lights, and two-way voice communications, all of which will be safe for use in an explosive environment. This innovation will keep our airmen safe, save time, and pave the way for even greater improvements.
In terms of safety, KC-135 maintainers have very limited communication when in fuel tanks. To ask a question or confirm their well-being, they're forced to exit the tank, which often takes 8 minutes or more, or they resort to knocking some kind of Morse code on the inside of the tank.
Madam Secretary General, you saw, and Chief, you experienced firsthand just how cramped it is in our fuel cell chamber when you visited us last year. Unlike that, if there's ever a problem in a real tank, it could take the attendant several minutes to realize something has gone wrong and a rescue attempt can be made. With IRIS, that will be completely eliminated.
In terms of time savings, in calendar year 2018, KC-135 maintainers, Air Force-wide, spent over 33,000 hours in fuel tanks, undertaking 11,042 tasks. Each of these tasks requires at least 3 separate entries, but often it's 8 or more just to have simple conversations. Cutting 80% of these additional tasks would save over 35,000 man-hours a year across the fleet. Extrapolating from there across our 5,747 aircraft, Air Force-wide, we would see savings in the region of 7,000 days of additional aircraft availability every year.
These savings expand even further when we consider concurrent fuel tank entries. With this system, we'll be able to have a single runner and a single attendant monitoring multiple confined spaces simultaneously. Further to that, we could have live consultation between supervisors and engineers anywhere in the world. Fuel cell technicians are excited by this. We've been called by several bases asking how they can get IRIS right now.
Beyond aircraft maintenance, this could be used by any other Air Force career field who undertake confined space maintenance. That could be rescue services, sewer workers, or tanker truck maintainers. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Outside of the Air Force, it could also be used in applications such as boats, mining, and silo workers. Doctors and pilots have their own specialized communication systems. It's time for maintenance to catch up.
This tech all exists separately. We know it can be easily and affordably consolidated into a single functional system. We're asking that you partner us with the right Air Force and commercial agencies to prototype and develop this. This is not just another new tool. This is IRIS, a literal lifeline for our airmen. Thank you.
So what exactly does it do? How is it unique from any other respirator that already, mask that already exists on the market?
So right now on the commercial market, there are options for, say, miners and divers. They utilize a lot of proprietary equipment. It doesn't quite meet the form factor. As you saw in the video, there's a lot of tight spaces, and if there's anything hanging off, it can get caught, and that in itself can get quite dangerous. What we're trying to do is we want to downsize what's currently on the market and actually create a user interface that not only allows them to, supervisors on the outside, to see what's going on in the tank, but we want to be able to network that and stream it anywhere across the world.
So it's about communication, because normally in the past, historically, we don't combine radio calls inside fuel tanks. So how have you gotten past that?
So the plan is, with hopefully a two-phase approach, is that for the fuel tanks, there would be initially a lanyarded version. Because the maintainers have piped air into them, having a lanyard is of no additional problem for them. So that can then go outside to a computer where it can then link into the network. We would also like to see a wireless version at some point, possibly on RF networks that would then be able to go forward from there.
So there's no commercial option now that does the job?
So There are intrinsically safe cameras. There are the microphones, speakers. As somebody told me earlier, safety tends to be the last thing we develop whenever we're innovating ideas. And I believe it just comes down to nobody's placed them into a respirator that can be used in these environments.
But what you said was the form factor for existing commercial systems was different, right? So point one is, have you gone to any existing commercial manufacturers and said, hey, we need a different form factor, and we're the Air Force and the services, we're a big potential customer. Would you work on this for us?
Yes, sir. This is in its infancy right now. We've only been working on it a couple of months. We've been reaching out to multiple commercial agencies, trying to get help. And in fact, we've actually gotten help from a company called Action Streamer. You know, their call to fame is sports cameras and such. And they have user interfaces that they believe they would be able to tailor to suit what we're doing.
Because the second challenge in all this is keeping up going forward, right? Because it's great what you guys have done. The innovation's phenomenal, right? You've taken off the shelf and you've pieced it together to make something that's good, can save lives and make you more efficient. That's awesome. But, you know, incorporating AR so you can see what you're going to need to fix and, you know, piping information in, right? Using artificial intelligence to determine just calibrations, what's there and what's not working, right? That's going to be a lot to keep up with going forward. And so have you given consideration on how you're going to support it once you get it in the door?
We looked at adding heads-up display, vital signs monitoring. There's lots of things that we could put into this mask. We want this to be available to all airmen.
No, I get that,
we
right?
want to keep it within...
But the state of the art, my point is the state of the art is going to keep on getting better because you've picked an area, and it's brilliant that you have, that's going to continuously improve. And so one of the challenges when you take on a new solution like this is how do you stay in a position where it always is a solution and all of a sudden commercial manufacturers not just come in and say, we're cheaper, better, faster, simpler.
Well, ultimately,
particularly given the bureaucracy you have to deal with.
So ultimately, we want a commercial industry to be able to take this on and develop it.
Got it.
Because right now,
Okay.
the Air Force has tens of thousands of workers in these confined spaces. According to OSHA in 2011, the United States has 2 million workers that works in these conditions every year. And extrapolating from there, that means tens of millions of people across the world
Got
need
it.
this
You answered my
equipment.
question. Thanks.
How far are we from technology that allows us to do fuel tank maintenance without someone having to climb in that fuel tank?
That is something I haven't considered, Chief.
About 10 years, 8 to 10 years. It's just a matter of robotic dexterity.
Good job, guys. All right, that's the end of discussion round. So we come to the question we always come to: do we have a spark?
I'd like to see you get some help from the team here. Let us figure out how to connect you with some of the folks who can help move this prototype along. We've got new prototyping and experimentation authorities. We get a lot of people who can help you. You've identified a real problem, and I think there are people who will help either modify what they're currently offering or work with us on what you all really need and advance this a step further. So.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
You know, a year ago, we had a tragedy where we lost an airman in a confined space. And this was deployed forward at Al Dhafra, climbing down to get a loose manhole cover that had fallen down and was overcome by fumes. And so I'd like to see this go forward, but I want to look beyond fuel tanks. I think we got to look at this for all of our AFSCs, our workers that work in confined spaces.
Yes, sir.
And then to the Secretary's point, let's really develop this out and get the latest technology against it.
Thank you, General.
No, I agree with the boss. I think this is incredibly important. Like you said, I've been in the prototype that you have at Milton Hall, so I know how tough it is for our airmen to operate in those spaces. But I do think we need a little bit more help and a little bit more work in this area.
Thank you, Chief.
I love the idea. Obviously, you spoke to the potential commercial capabilities of this product, and potentially, as you said, you're still sort of in the beginning stages, maybe expanding the testing of the product, maybe to, I can see applications in fire departments and hazmat cleanup and bomb squad use. So maybe even before the commercial product, maybe expanding testing capabilities. So I really like the idea. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a sparker too. not just because you came up with a solution to a problem that was right in front of you, but you looked at all the alternatives, and you're also looking forward to see how you can enhance it, and it can always be a solution going forward. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Entering the Spark Tank now, the MQ-9 Digital Aircraft Link Emulator. Everything you need to test the signal on an MQ-9. Can you hear me now? Within a tactical case.
Representing Air Force Special Operations Command with the Digital Aircraft Link Emulator, DAO. I'm Master Neighbor. This is Captain Drinkstveit, Sergeant Van Riper, and our SPO, Mr. Cotton. Imagine watching a live feed of a hostage situation and feeling completely helpless because your Reaper arrived too late. That surge of emotion. If only we had a magic time machine to get there earlier, to get the rescue team the information to save a fellow American. Dale is that time machine. In 2015, AFSOC's Expeditionary Launch and Recovery capability had a big problem. We had to get downrange and get an airfield operational faster, but we had limited airlift options. We had to reduce cargo. Our largest piece of cargo, our aircraft. But we had to have our aircraft to test the signal between it and the pilot's control station at every point on an airfield. We would painstakingly tow it down aprons and taxiways and runways. This was very important to ensure safety of flight during takeoff and landing. Since these aircraft are essentially flying computers, I had the idea to mount the minimum amount of aircraft parts inside a tactical case. Based on my primo prototype, the SPO worked with Space Dynamics Lab to build 2 Dales. Dale solved our problems. It reduced a 10,000-pound aircraft to a 200-pound box. We could easily drive it around in a vehicle. We had an airfield tested and ready before the aircraft even arrived. This functional capability put us in the fight tonight.
And that fight's the operational side. As an MQ-9 evaluator pilot who's successfully tested Dale and was lucky enough to use it operationally, I've deployed our Reapers all across the world, and it took literal days to complete the link test that Sergeant Neighbor's talking about. And as you guys know, in our business, we don't have the luxury of time. But now with Dale, we can transport our deployment package on C-5s, C-17s, or even C-130s, which has increased our flexibility. We can become operational in hours versus days, which has increased our readiness. Dale directly allows the MQ-9 Reaper to rapidly support hostage rescue, humanitarian support, or even conduct kinetic strikes, which has increased our combat effectiveness.
I need your help. I'm asking for a $750,000 investment in 12 months to convert the current system that costs $700,000 to a laptop capability that costs $50,000. This less expensive system will help us expand across the RPA enterprise and potentially sister services. Bottom line, this will deliver the MQ-9 any place, anytime, anywhere.
So what makes you think that you can take what you have there and get it into a laptop in 12 months for $750,000?
Yes, ma'am. We're currently working, our SPO is working with the joint lab, the JSIL, and they're on board. They're ready to rock and roll with it.
What is it you're putting into the laptop?
We're going to virtualize the aircraft.
Right. But what is it? Because I have no clue.
So basically what she did to start was took the brains from that huge plane, put it in this tiny box, and now the money that she's asking for is going to take it from this box and put it in a laptop, which it basically
Is it
using
software?
a software version of our
yes,
brain
sir, software.
of our plane.
Okay.
So it took it from that huge plane to this big, which, I mean, put that in any plane the Air Force has, and we can deploy.
So you're taking the brains of the plane and using software, you're creating a virtual plane.
Yes,
That's
sir.
exactly
But it's
right.
all software emulation, and just processor speed effectively to do that. And then you just test the connectivity.
That's exactly
and you can
right.
test the different operations through the virtualization.
That's exactly right.
How unique is this to the MQ-9?
So this one is very unique. There's actual aircraft parts in it. However, we are looking to expand it to the joint level with the Gray Eagles and with the laptop. We could easily do that.
Yeah.
Is it unique to the remotely piloted aircraft?
It is unique to the remotely piloted aircraft, and this one specifically is for MQ-9s. But obviously, we're using MQ-1s. General Atomics is making more aircraft, and the RPAs are across the sister services. Marines are using them, Army's using them, government contractors are using them. So, you know, it has potential for much further. But for us in AFSOC, obviously, you know, maintenance was like, we have a problem. Operators, what do you think? We're like, yeah, we'd love to get set up sooner. So they did that.
So currently, you still have some parts from the aircraft. When you
Yes,
go
sir.
completely virtual with software, what are the risks of it not reading or linking or what have you? Any potential dangers or risks?
So the computer, it would be the same software with a different computer, if that makes sense.
Right, so you took the computer that's in the RPA and put it in the box
Yes,
there,
sir.
right?
Absolutely.
And so you'll just take the software that was on there. You just can't put it on a laptop the way it's configured right now.
Because it's a giant,
Right,
giant
okay.
box, exactly. Good, no
Judges are
questions. Let's go. Sounds like we'll put it in order.
Well, judges, do we have a spark?
Seems pretty cool to me.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is it's a little bit different because we're trying to pose that cost to the
Well, I
to
do
the
have
enemy.
one question. So I'm guessing the people who manufacture the RPAs already do simulations internally before, as they upgrade and try to improve the RPAs, right?
Right, and they have different requirements than we do in
No, I get that,
in AFSOC,
but I'm guessing they have simulation software of their own. And have you talked to them about getting the software from them or using them to test it and improve it?
Would you mind if we let our SPO say that?
Yeah, no way.
Yes.
Yes, sir, Thomas Cotton. Yeah, we have talked to the vendor and discussed virtualization not only on this front, but some other concepts that we're working on. And obviously, they're not exactly happy about that.
Right, because they want more aircrafts than they want, yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
I mean, so at the end of the day, this is about rapid deployability, right? This is about to be able to go forward very quickly with a small package to be able to set up for operations as fast as we can possibly do it in a global environment where we have to be able to get there quickly.
Yes, sir.
So I would offer you that I think what you're onto here is bigger than the MQ-9.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And so what we need to do, and I'm going to give this to the A3 for Jill Kelly and the team here. Let's take a look at this more broadly across MQ-9. You get a spark from me on MQ-9, but I don't want to stop there. What I want to do is take a look at it. Where is it from a deployability standpoint where we have to do signal testing prior to arrival of capability? How do we take this idea and scale it across the Air Force?
Yeah, and what's convenient enough, in every single one of our locations, we're there with sister services, or government contractors, or our joint partners, and so that community is so tight already that we already, we're halfway there. We just need that other half, which this would be.
Because some of the signal strength you're testing is probably a ground signal, but you're also going to be testing a space signal.
Initially, yes, ground signal, and up to anywhere between.
So you start thinking about it that way, it comes up that there's all kinds of applications that we can have here.
Fair.
Thank you so much.
Wait, one quick question. One of the red flags for me that popped up, not to the what you're trying to accomplish, but was what the SPO said in terms of vendors. I mean, I'm just a taxpayer that pays a lot of taxes. April 15th is not my favorite day. But we're the customer, right? The service is the customer. Why don't we kick the vendors in the ass? I mean, and I get with the bureaucracy and everything and logistics. Where can we minimize the conflict so that since we're writing the checks, the vendors are more receptive to working with us? I mean, because if the vendors are hesitant in helping us, that's horrible, right? And I know there's not a lot of choices, and I know there's a lot of layers to deal with, but where can the folks here reduce the friction there?
So what's your question specifically?
Specifically, go ahead, the gentleman.
So, sir, we've actually started working with the Joint Technical System Integration Lab down at the JSIL, and we're trying to bring the vendor in as a team member to make them more involved so that as we're working on these projects, they're there helping us work the solution.
Right.
And so being a part of the team, obviously they have less to lose that way. So that's how we kind of bridge
Is that the way
gap
they
there
look
again.
at it, though? You know, or are they really hesitant to support you at all because they're afraid you're not going to buy as many?
We're getting there. Our SPO leadership is working very well.
But that gets to the heart of the matter, you know, because is there something, the whole idea?
All right, I met with General Atomics today. Are you here still? Anyone from General Atomics?
Oh, I hope not. We love your plane.
Come on in.
The enemy doesn't. Sorry.
See, I don't have to worry about the politics.
All right, thank you guys.
Hey, Mark, I think we'll just sick you on him and have a sit down with General Atomics. Yeah. I think that's the best plan. All right, let's cue the music. Next, into the spark tank is Lexi, the computer-assisted weather forecast, eliminating thousands of hours of manual data aggregation within seconds.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Shark. My name is Cadet Candidate Usama Bamye. I am a student at the Air Force Academy's preparatory school, and my idea for this year's Spark Tank, thank you for the applause. Great to be a preppy. My idea is Lexi, the weather of tomorrow. A little bit about myself. So prior to becoming a student, I was a weather forecaster for over 3 years. I've done 2,000 forecasts in my life in 17 countries, and I've deployed twice, once in support of combat search and rescue operations in northern Syria, as well as northern Iraq. So I want to talk about the time it's required to compile a weather forecast. And specifically, I want to talk about the time that's required to compile the data. It's about 35 minutes of looking at different DoD sites and meteorological data and pushing it into an Excel sheet. And that's just something I wasn't fine with. So I created a program called Lexi. So what is Lexi? Lexi is a piece of software that rapidly compiles the same amount of data that a forecaster was doing and slides it into an Excel sheet, nearly eliminating that 35 minutes and expediting the process to provide products. It is currently, I built this while I was in Germany, and it's currently being operated in Southeast Germany in Grafenwehr Army Airfield. So again, only 15 seconds versus those 35 minutes. And when you compare the two, it's about 42 minutes quicker to deliver that product. And for an airman, it's nice, it really is, but I think there's bigger implications, especially at the strategic level. When you're looking at search and rescue, the average alert time is about 15 minutes. Our legacy method of forecasting, which is 45 minutes, just simply doesn't provide that environmental intelligence and enough time for them to depart quick enough. They're going to depart regardless, and then we just have to hope that they'll listen to the radios when we try to talk to them. When a pilot falls behind enemy lines, every single second counts, and Lexi is going to help that pilot on the ground. A personal experience that the chief is intimately familiar with. Another benefit is the data required. We don't know where our next conflict is going to be, and it could very well be possible that our data can't be taken for granted. In the event that we're being jammed, in the event that we don't have as much data available, Lexi can operate with only 1/1000th of the amount of information that's currently required for a current forecaster. It operates off of pretty much any communication system that we have available in the Air Force. So what's my ask? What is it going to take to build this? Well, first off, we would like 3 weather forecasters assigned to Kessel Run Project, a rapid software engineering unit organic within the Air Force, to develop it from an alpha in Germany to 5 different units. Then we're asking for $1.4 million to help develop and sustain this program for the next decade. In return, Lexi will be able to provide over $500 million worth of weather products in the next 10 years. Pending any questions, that concludes my brief.
So how does your app differ from the weather apps that I have on my phone or ForeFlight or anything else?
Absolutely. So I guess it's a different customer set. So for military applications, weather.com just isn't sufficient when you're trying to make a crater on the ground or trying to pick someone up. The Lexi provides unique factors that we depend on that are unique to military missions. Things such as the drop level winds straight from a vertical column of 30,000 feet to the surface. But ForeFlight does provide that. And so it differs in two more methods from ForeFlight, which is our leading competitor right now. One, ForeFlight is more for planning, and the execution forecast specifically analyzes weapon systems, whether it be aircraft or things that go kinetic, and can tell you in a nice color code whether it's favorable, marginal, or unfavorable. The second thing is, that's pretty much it. It's tailored for the exact weapon systems, and furthermore, the second thing, the next biggest thing is, it doesn't just pull the model data, it can pull the current observations and then initialize based off of that. So it can extrapolate based off of this information. That's what we're seeing right now in Grafenbeer with the alpha.
So how are you doing all that? What are you writing it in? Obviously if it's in Excel, that's not going to be optimal, right?
Absolutely.
So you're using the same data sources, and so wherever you're pulling your data from, the ability to communicate, that's not really changing either, right? So you had to pick a language to write it in. Are you using machine learning to optimize, or are you just doing some basic algorithms, or both, or tell us?
Absolutely. So right now the alpha test is using some basic algorithms. The code that's being ran is Visual Basic. There's certain limitations on government computers, like really big limitations on government computers. And so our goal, and that's going to be where Kessler
Okay, so right there, stop right there. So if you're right, I don't know what the limitations are on your computers though, but I'm guessing that there's alternative languages other than Visual Basic.
Absolutely.
So, because if the goal here is to solve a problem of time, right, then you want to find the language that is going to be the fastest, right, whether you're integrating data, managing the database of what you've just pulled in, right, optimizing it, and being able to run a linear regression or machine learning or whatever you're doing, right? So there's a lot to accomplish. Visual Basic isn't going to get that.
There's certain limitations with Visual Basic. So our goal with Kessler One, when they pick up support and move it from an alpha to a beta, is we expect them to program it in Java and have it HTML based. And then
Why?
I'm sorry?
Why? Because Java and HTML aren't, see, what you're telling me the goal is speed, right? To get so that, when you're over enemy lines, things I can't even possibly imagine, but every second counts.
Absolutely.
But you're not choosing the tools that give you a return in the minimum number of milliseconds.
So the end goal is once we get it into that JavaScript and push it out to a beta, and before we have it operational across the entire Air Force, we want it on C# and to basically have it a standalone software that's integrated into every computer, or a forecasting computer.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So in some ways, what you're talking about here is data fusion.
Yes,
right?
sir.
You're pulling from, because right now you're having to do it all manually. It takes you 35 minutes or what have you, right? This is going to be able to take it and do machine-to-machine fusion, right?
Absolutely.
To get you the information. So on that, just give us a couple minutes or on what you have left on the 1.4 million, because I'm not sure I understand what that does for you.
Perfect. So with that 1.4 million, we expect that it's going to take approximately 6,000 hours in order to develop that software. So that's where we're budgeting that. So break it down in half. That first $700,000 is to develop it, test it, especially cybersecurity-wise, because we want this to be run on Nipper and Sipper organically. And I'll just keep talking. Okay. I'm sorry. That 700,000 is to have it developed organically, so it works on classified networks as well. And that final $700,000 so we can deliver on our final promise. Our final $700,000 is for sustainability.
All right, judges. Now is the time where we ask, do we have a spark?
I like the idea. It sounds like what we also might need is some reprieve from DISA to be able to use the right tools instead of going all around.
Given you completely disregarded the bell, there's a good chance you're actually going to get into the academy.
How many years did it take you, Chief, to get through that? So
Six.
I'm the only one in the room that can do that. I'm just doing that for all of you. I'd like to see you get together with Kessel Run and create we need a connection between the Academy and Kessel Run. Right?
Absolutely.
And I'd like to see you get together with them and take this. There you go.
Thank you. This is cool. It's really quick.
That's worth about $40 billion right there. And see what they tell you. Learn a little more, and then refine your plan on where you need to go to get this thing going.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And our final team into the Spark Tank, the Fighter Aircraft Adaptive Basing Team. This fighter pit crew in a box streamlines the rapid deployment of maintenance for 4 fighters.
Good afternoon, I'm Tech Sergeant Matthew Stead. And I'm Tech Sergeant Corey Snyder. We are crew chiefs from the 144th Fighter Wing, Fresno, California. Let's talk about adaptive basing. You can't just send jets into combat without also flying in tons of equipment and personnel. Essentially, every time you fly your aircraft, you have to provide it a pit stop. For example, to support 4 F-15s in an austere location, you also need to fly in 3 C-17s with over 100 items and over 40 airmen to that location. This takes us about 2 to 3 days just to pack and leave the base. So 2 years ago, we asked the question, could we fit everything that we needed for adaptive basing into a single tractor trailer? This started an innovation chain of events as we examined every piece of this unique puzzle. And after investing several thousand hours in the research and incorporating solutions from engineers, 6 teams of engineers from Air Force and civilian sectors, the answer was yes. Our solution only requires a single C-17, a single tractor trailer, and only 12 hybrid maintainers. Instead of 2 to 3 days, we can be gone in just 2 to 3 hours. But wait, there's more. Our trailer doesn't just have some tools in it. This is a complete mission-based solution. We re-engineered the powered aircraft support equipment. We innovated more efficient vertical cargo racking that better utilizes the space inside the C-17. It has computer terminals, meeting space, a bathroom, shower, laundry, a kitchen, has medical facilities, an armory, and sleeping quarters for the entire 12 crew members. Is it innovative? Is it lethal? Is it 90% faster than our conventional method? Yes. But will it save the Air Force any money? According to an estimate from ACC, if ACC would have deployed just 10% of their fighters from last year with this solution, they would have saved $49 million on airlift alone. We designed our solution specific to the F-15, but we also designed it to be interoperable between other airframes and helicopters as well. We've truly designed this product as far as we can without actually having an active prototype. We've also gone through our market research office, and we've done our market research and received multiple offers that aligned with our ask. So our ask is not theoretical. We need $970,000 to build a functional prototype.
Secretary Wilson, gentlemen. This is just like a IndyCar NASCAR trailer. This will be the new standard for rapidly deploying fighter aircraft. Please help us provide a faster, lethal combat air power to our maintainers and fighter pilots. Thank you.
If you guys ever need sales jobs, I got you. I think it's great. I mean, it's simple, right to the point. You're using off the shelf for almost everything. Do you have a Sharpie? Okay, I'll get that. Thanks.
Hey, so I'm not tracking on one thing. So if I'm not going to move it by C-17, then how do I move it?
This is also C5 loadable, and the major advantage that we have over pulling a normal ISU is commanders can do a line pull. One of our problems that we ran into when we were overseas with our unit, we had an issue where we couldn't get air support, but there were plenty of roads that we could have traveled on. Had we had a solution like this, as opposed to our conventional methods, we're not reliant on just airlift alone. We have other methods of getting around our cargo.
Okay, so it's airliftable. And so the savings that you talked about were the fact that you could pack more in it, so therefore have less C-17 loads.
We took a lot of our 1970s technology. Pretty much anything that said United States Air Force on the side of it, we threw it out and we redesigned it. That's how we were able to get it to a much more condensed package. This is 2019 technology, and that's how we're able to get so much more inside of a single C-17 because it utilizes the space inside the aircraft much more efficiently.
So have you guys, you mentioned it would cost, I think you said $970 for a prototype. So have you explored any potential commercial, shipping products? Because coming as a race team owner, we transport our car and all necessary parts, tractor trailer to and from venue, the old-fashioned way, and wanted to know, I would personally love to have something like this where also a base of operations, as you mentioned, there's sleeping quarters, office, stuff like that. I didn't know if maybe you guys had a plan for potentially maybe a simpler model that you can sell to maybe commercial shipping companies or a race team, for instance.
We actually did when we started this. We actually went to the NASCAR companies that build those trailers. And a lot of them actually turned us down because the design is actually much more complex than what you actually see on the screen. There's a lot of intricate parts that are involved specifically with aircraft maintenance. So going about it and designing this specifically custom for a crew chief and his pilot and his aircraft, this is how we were able to get up with this product right here.
And also it can go on a C-17. So working with C-17 load masters, be able to get this in and out fast, and working with ATLA to be able to securely mount this into the C-17 safely so we can fly around and land, get out, and do our mission.
When we actually started designing this, we actually got C-17 Loadmaster instructors on board with us from day one. So we weren't just building a trailer and then trying to figure out how to load it later. We actually designed it from day one to fly.
When you think about all the stuff that you said, yeah, we don't need that, or we can redesign that smaller, talk to us about what were the things that you threw overboard? I mean, what just didn't make sense and you redesigned to save space and weight?
So the biggest thing is I'm a crew chief. I love to fix jets, but I'm always being tasked to go and build pallets, pack ISU bins, which takes forever, take it on to supply, and they reject it because it wasn't packed right. So with this, it's already packed, ready to go, and whatever we do need, sometimes there's equipment that we can't keep in there all the time because we have to use it on our regular day-to-day missions. We can just easily grab it off the flat line, put it in, strap it down, and it's ready to go. So we minimize the amount of tools that we take. Instead of taking every shop's toolbox, we got one toolbox with every shop's special toolbox in different cases or whatever, inside the trailer, strapped down, ready to go at any time.
Well, I got 15 seconds. I'll explain hybrid airmen. We took our 7 levels and we cross-trained those guys so we better utilize their skill set.
Judges, do we have a spark?
So what do you think? You want to prototype this one, Chief?
Yeah, I was thinking that you probably started with a fixed container, and then you optimize the size inside that container. I think we got to go to the next step as well and look at what's the size we would need, because I would imagine that you may not need always the whole container, maybe in a portion of it. I mean, how do we make sure that we've got the right size? Because if we can continue to cut down lift, and that's the name of the game. By the way, I thought this was awesome. That's a different spelling on the name Goldfein, though. Just kidding. Just kidding. Work with me here.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned how much I love the product, so you definitely got a spark for me.
Yep, great idea. Hybrid airman. Wright likes it. Yep.
Congrats, guys.
All right. Thank you. Wow. So as always, the airmen rocked it. Let's give them a round of applause. And I'd also like to recognize all the amazing wingmen in the audience. Outstanding audience participation. We've got cards coming on stage. This was great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And let's have another round of applause for our judges. So they truly have a tough job today. And be sure to record your vote for your favorite pitch, because the poll closes in exactly 60 seconds.
Several ideas not selected for the Spark Tank final today have already made their way into innovation programs and will continue through their pitches today. The AFWorks network will continue to work with all of those teams submitted through the ideation platform.
We're going to make sure these teams are successful. And even if we don't have success, we're going to iterate and we're going to learn a heck of a lot. I encourage all airmen to continue looking for ways to make things better and to create your own entrepreneur adventure.
And while we're here celebrating this year's Spark Tank, you can prepare for next year's Spark Tank right here at AFA in Orlando. The submissions open tomorrow on the Air Force Ideation Portal.
What happens after today, you ask? You can follow all the team's progress on afworks.af.mil, and you can follow on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Judges, please take some time now to cast your vote for the winner.
And while the judges are deliberating, here's one awesome Spark Tank innovation that has already moved forward, thanks to Tech Sergeant Oralia Howard from the 48th Maintenance Group at RAF Lakenheath, who's in the audience today. Let's take a look.
Video,
I am
please.
Tech Sergeant Howard from the 332nd AEW. Today I will be doing a demonstration on Allow 128, 129 overspray protectors. These overspray protectors are designed to prevent overspray on critical components and markings on Allow 128, 129. They will be used on all model F-15, F-16s across the Air Force, both flight line and back shop. The Air Force uses about they would spend about $36,000 worth of tape every 18 months just on taping. This tool will also eliminate haz waste by 85%. This is due to we will not be using any tape. We will be using some pre-cut out protectors. I will show you guys the new tools we have come up with. This is the AIM-9 cutout cover. This is the new cover, and it will cover the striker points and the AIM-120 umbilical. This will protect the aft dampeners. And then we have this tool which you can use to SFD the latches and also go along the rail. Currently it takes 30 to 45 minutes just to tape off the rail. With these new tools, it takes approximately 25 seconds. After the rail has dried off, we will pull off the protectors. And as you can see, there is a difference where we will not be using any haz waste, and this is what comes out of one rail every 90 days.
Judges, please come forward in the center for us. And now each team will receive their individual award and a picture with the judges. The M1 fail-safe
Come right to
team.
Stage center, and we'll have you guys just line up because we'll do pictures. The Chemical Agent Detector Team.
The Iris Team.
The MQ-9 emulator team.
Take a picture. The Lexi team.
The Fighter Adaptive Basing team.
Well, Bach, it's time to pass that trophy. Today, we are going to only recognize one and only crown one champion. But we're excited because all these innovators get to join our growing network.
And now it's time for the moment of truth, where we vote for the 2019 Spark Tank champion. Judges, are you ready? Please come forward.
Drum roll, please. And the CMSAF says,
yeah,
MQ-9.
Mark Cuban says, renewable energy for JCAD.
The Chief of Staff says, Iris.
Chief Wright says, M1 Cargo.
George Steinbrenner says, Fighter Adaptive Basing.
And the airmen say,
Renewable energy for
JCAD. And the winner is, drum roll, renewable energy for JCAD.
Bot, come forward. Come on up. Winners, come on up. Get the trophy. Congratulations.
Awesome job, Dave.
That's a close vote.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Special thanks to Mark Cuban and George Steinbrenner IV for being part of the event. Please stick around. Please stick around for some more fun, a fireside chat with Mark Cuban and our wonderful Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Sebby Wilson. We hope to see some of you on stage at next year's event. And until then, keep generating those sparks.